Hey guys, it's Vanessa Joy, and this is my second installment of the V-blog, or the VJ blog. I don't know what I'm going to call it yet. I might just call it Tico time if my dog decides to come in again. But thank you so much for everyone who watched last time. I was really happy with the response that we got, just people who found the information useful, as well as a lot of responses for different questions to talk about on the following episodes. So what we're going to talk about this time, we're going to talk about how I entered the world of photography and went from, weekend warrior part-time to full-time. We're also going to talk about the importance of cleaning lenses and updating firmware. And then for wedding photographers, we are going to talk about the timeline. So lots of things to get into, so we're going to jump right into it. Brenda Reed asked, how did you enter the world of photography? How long did it take to make a sufficient income? And how long did it take to reach the established point you're at right now? What's the biggest tip you would give to someone wanting to share or wanting to achieve similar goals? That's a lot. So what I thought I'd do, because we're all visual people, is to show you how I got here. So started out with my mom. My mom was a photographer, so she was always taking pictures, and I'm pretty sure she put a camera in my hand at the age of 3. So I had that growing up, but I didn't really love it. I was actually homeschooled for 9 years, so when I went to high school I had to pick an elective, and my mom was sitting right next to me, and when the guidance counselor suggested photography, I was like, oh, okay, I guess I'll do that and make mom happy, and she smiled and was all happy about that. So I did, and lo and behold, I loved it. I loved it, from the smell of fixer on my hands to going out and taking pictures. So this, and excuse me because I obviously ripped the front mat board off for something else, is one of my pictures that I took in high school. This was taken with the Pentax camera, which is what I learned on, film camera, guys. And this is a picture of my mom. And let's see what else we got here. This is the art book called Images that my high school did, and I have a picture in here. This is my dad holding a butterfly, and as a lot of you know, I have a thing for butterflies. And a picture of the seashore. So I went through all 3 years of photography in high school. I was taught by a guy named John Hain, and I believe he's still there up until this coming year. I think he's retiring. But I went on to college, and I didn't really know what I wanted to do, so I did photography. So these are some of the shots that you'll see in photography. I did have a fine arts instructor, so she wasn't really keen, Miss Gina Marola, on all of my portraiture. This is Kylie right here, and her sister Taylor. She works for me now, she's my assistant. You'll start to notice a pattern. I really enjoy photographing people and photographing connections between people. So I did this in college, and I did get a photography degree. I moved on from there, and I continued going to college for Spanish, but I worked at a children's portrait studio, and that's what this is. These are some pictures. I'm not sure if I'm supposed to really be showing other children, but I did keep some of my favorites. I can't really take credit for any of the exposure or anything. I really, even at that point, didn't quite know what I was doing. I still hadn't learned what white balance was, even proper exposure, or what, f-stops did to pictures, but I started getting a little bit more creative. So I worked at a children's portrait studio. And then I went back to high school, and I would always go back every once in a while to visit my photography teacher, and he was actually a wedding photographer. So I was very fortunate in that he took me on and trained me to be a wedding photographer, and I worked in his studio, and these were some of my first competition prints, so that's what these are. None of them did very well to 78. Awful. This one right here, definitely one of my favorites. Also 78, no blue ribbon there. And this was one of my favorites, actually. And yeah, guess what number that one scored? 78. Woo! So I learned a lot through John Hain of Hain Photography, and my biggest advice for anyone who's looking to become a full-time photographer is to find that person or persons that you can talk to and learn from. In addition to getting all the information that you can off the internet and workshops, I really found it just wildly valuable to have somebody that I could go to and trust, someone that would teach me and love me enough to teach me the craft and move on from there. So that's kind of my story. Eventually our styles differed a little, so I went on my own, and I loved it. I got to the point of being able to get a sufficient income by holding a second job And then just continuing to build my business as if I didn't have that second job to rely on. And eventually I was able to resign from teaching Spanish. I used to teach Spanish. So moving on, okay, English would like to know how I maintain my lenses and why do I take them to Canon every year, and how often I update my firmware. I do take my lenses to Canon every year. I have some of my toys here. This is my 50. This is probably my mostly used lens, favorite lens. And if we take a look at it here, I don't know what you can see. The aperture is pretty open, but there are some spots. And not every spot is going to show up on your image, but you always want your glass to be as clean as possible. It gives you a sharper image. It gives you a lot less work afterwards and retouching if you don't have to retouch any spots. And you also want to make sure that you clean your sensor as well. I take these to Canon every year to get them professionally cleaned. I do it at least once a year because I just want the absolute best out of my lens. If you are a photographer, take a look at Canon's CPS program. It's a type of program where they let you take in lenses to get cleaned and certain repairs at no charge. It's something, if you're a professional photographer, it's definitely worth investing in. And as far as updating my firmware, I update my firmware every time I know there's an update. And you can find that out by going onto Canon's website on the CPS section as well. So definitely important, you know, you spend a lot of money on this equipment. I mean, thousands and thousands of dollars. You want it to be absolutely pristine for all of your pictures. Chris, and it's christhephotographer.com. He's the one who asked about if I get firm with a couple on my wedding day and how do I keep them on schedule, or do I not worry about it? Why does it seem like the photo time suffers if another vendor throws off the schedule? And it's true. A lot of the time photography is the thing that gets cut, and why that is really just because of the day and how it works out. You know, you've got to get to the church on time. The reception, the cocktail hour is starting whether or not you're done with pictures. A lot of the time, and I love hair and makeup, don't get me wrong, everyone I've ever worked with, for the most part, hair and makeup has done a beautiful job, and I could not take beautiful pictures without, well, I could, but then I'd be doing the makeup myself on every picture afterwards. But a lot of times hair and makeup goes late, and it's not necessarily their fault, but because of that, you now have your crunch time between when hair and makeup is done and the church is done. And then after the church, if the church goes long, now you're crunch time for pictures after the church and before the cocktail hour gets crunched. So photo time is the only thing that really is flexible in that way. Because of that, I do go over scheduling very firmly. Firm isn't the word I would use. I would go over it very detailed with all of my clients. I usually have them actually ask me sometime before the wedding. When they're making those hair makeup appointments, I get most of them that email me and they'll ask me, hey, what time do you need me for pictures? I need to make my hair makeup appointment. So that's great if I can do that. I also send them a PDF. It's almost here PDF, and I send this to them pre-wedding with a bunch of FAQs and things that I need them to know. I also have a form for them online that I have them fill out just the parts of the day so I can take a look at it. I go over with them and I email them and I let them know, hey, I'm going to get to your house at 12 o'clock. At this point, you should be finishing up with your hair, starting on your makeup. I'd like you to be in your dress at 1 o'clock so you can leave for the church at 2. So I do go over it with them. Same thing goes for if we're taking pictures after the ceremony. All right, your ceremony is at 3 o'clock. You have a full mass, you're going to 4, receiving line to 4:30. I need family pictures after that, and then wherever travel time. And I tell them I really would like a good hour with the bridal party and the two of them. Yes, I can do it in 45 minutes, but if I put extra buffer time into my photography time, it's okay if some of it gets taken away. People are still relaxed. The day of the wedding, however, if things aren't going well, this is the only thing you see on my face. It's a smile. It is a wedding day. It doesn't matter if, I don't know, the cake explodes. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what goes wrong, because that day is going to be a perfect day for the bride and groom. And if you're a photographer and part of that wedding, it is your job to make sure it is perfect from you too. So I'm very upfront with scheduling before then. Afterwards, I usually find that I don't have too much of a problem, and then sometimes you just have to work in a crunch, and you know, that's one of those things that we just have to be trained to do. So For my own sanity, I do type out a schedule also. This is for myself as well as whoever's second shooting and assisting for me. I go over all of the pictures. I know you probably can't see this, but bride and groom's name, contact phone number, wedding date, start time, end time. And then I start with bride's prep. Bridal party names, family names, requested group shots. I usually don't actually get any requested group shots. I have them tell me all their family names, and then I make the list for them. The last thing you want is your brides to give you that list that they found online or in that book that says absolutely everything from make sure you get a picture of me putting my veil in to you know, taking a picture of my third cousin twice removed fiance. So what you want to do, not just because you don't want that list, but because it really is your job to figure out what's going on. Make that list for them. Take one thing off the list that the bride has to do. All you need are the people's names, and then you just run down. So the list is bride with mom, bride with dad, bride with mom and dad, you know, bride with immediate family, bride with grandparents. And then it goes the same thing for the groom, and then we do everyone together. So bride and groom with mom, dad, bride and groom with immediate family on the bride's side, and then you do the same thing on the groom's side. I usually run this by my clients so that they know exactly what pictures are being taken, and more importantly, so that they tell the people who are in these pictures that they have to be in the pictures. The last thing you want to do, especially if you're shooting family pictures during cocktail hour for whatever reason, is to be chasing anyone down away from the bar or in the bathroom. That is take two, because we ran out of time. If you don't know about video on the Canons, you can actually only shoot up to 12 minutes, so I guess I did not make that 5-minute timeline. Next time will be shorter. Next time, speaking of next time, what we're going to talk about a little bit, Erin from Erin H Photography has asked, how do you organize your workflow Monday through Thursday? Just certain steps that we should take to make mandatory over others. I will also talk a little bit about video. Carolina Riviere asked about video, and Fweza asked a little bit about working with my husband. So we are going to talk a little bit about that, and it's great. I love working with my husband, so that should be fun. Maybe I'll get him in front of the camera too. Thank you so much, guys, for watching, and I hope to see you next time. I think I have a good amount of bloopers on this take, from my fabulous chopstick abilities. Online, maybe I should just start again.